Let's start with the slightly strange experiments, then descend into the cruel ones. Number 5. Spiders raised in zero gravity. In 1973, NASA sent 2 garden spiders of the species Araneus diatomatus to the Skylab station to conduct an experiment. They named them Arabella and Anita. This interesting idea came from a 17-year-old high school student named Judith Miles, aiming to answer the question, if there is no gravity, can spiders still spin webs? This experiment sounds like an advanced biology assignment, but after reaching orbit, if they could speak, perhaps they would say those were the worst experiences they had ever gone through. In a zero-gravity environment, the 2 spiders floated around, their legs flailing clumsily like you when you're learning to swim, because at that moment, for them, there was no longer any concept of up or down. At first, they were very clumsy, but after a few days, they adapted and began to spin webs. The special thing was that the webs they spun in space were not like those on Earth. They were more perfect, more symmetrical, possibly because they were less constrained by the direction of gravity. Later, on the ISS space station, scientists discovered that spiders could use light to replace gravity as an orientation signal. When they no longer knew where up or down was, they used light to orient themselves. This experiment helped NASA better understand how animals adapt to microgravity. It also showed how important factors such as light, humidity, food, and living environment are when bringing organisms into space. The ending was not very happy as both Arabella and Anita died from dehydration. I think perhaps they chose to leave rather than stay and become experimental subjects for humans. Anyway, thank you very much for what they left behind for us. Number 4. Printing meat and human organs in outer space. In 2019, Aleph Farms, an Israeli cultured meat company, and 3D bioprinting solutions, a Russian biotechnology company, sent cow muscle cells to the ISS to create cultured meat tissue in microgravity. After that, Redwire, a space technology company, and NASA continued with the biofabrication facility, a 3D bioprinter capable of printing human tissue. Their goal sounds very futuristic, creating fresh food for astronauts, printing medical tissue, and further beyond that, supporting organ transplantation in the human body. On Earth, gravity makes soft tissue collapse easily, so printing living tissue is very difficult. But in space, cells are not pulled downward as usual. They can assemble into 3-dimensional structures more easily. By 2023, astronauts on the ISS had successfully printed a human knee meniscus using living cells. It was fully cultured and then brought back to Earth for analysis. Scientifically, this is a major step forward. One day, this technology may help create heart tissue, cartilage tissue, or organs for regenerative medicine. But in terms of feeling, I also find it a little creepy. A piece of meat created in orbit. A piece of the human body printed layer by layer in the middle of space. So if one day in the future, instead of only printing small parts, these machines could print an entire living body, then what? At that time, evolution, religion, ethics, and many other things would probably be turned upside down. Number 3. Water bears exposed naked in outer space. Tardigrades, also called water bears, are microscopic creatures famous for being almost impossible to kill. In 2007, ESA, the European Space Agency, carried out the TARDIS experiment on the Photon M3 mission. Scientists dried the tardigrades, put them into an almost death-like dormant state, and then placed them in a device called Biopan 6 outside the satellite. When it reached orbit, the device's cover opened, directly exposing the tardigrades to outer space. These tiny creatures had to be directly exposed to the vacuum environment, cosmic radiation, and sunlight. Those were extremely harsh conditions that for us, perhaps only a few dozen seconds would be enough to log out, but they had to endure them continuously for 10 days. The goal of the experiment was to test the limits of life and the panspermia hypothesis, the possibility that life moves between planets through meteorites or space material. The result was truly shocking.